something told me, Dominique, finish that damn song. You know that you got something that you can do. Just finish it.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Welcome to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. Today, I have Dom, also known as Soul Savage. You may know Dom from the collective of The Ideal Spot. And so today, we're going to be listening to his song, Breaking the Mold. Dom, welcome to the show.
What up, what up, what up? Thank you for having me, man.
Sure thing. Without further ado, let's listen to the song.
Breaking the mold. Yo, close my eyes and realize that everything ceased to exist. It feels like I'm at a standstill, walking up a damn hill, but not making no real leeway up in my life. Yikes, I don't wanna be like the little niggas that have big dreams, but cannot fit the jeans. Know what my destiny means, it resides in my dreams. When I fall asleep, count the sheep, pondering on flaw's victory. I see what's going on for myself, trying to write this song, trying to break out of my mold, but it seems like something's not letting a nigga go, just like a forced choke to the throat or Kurt Angle stranglehold. Please let a young nigga go, but that still cannot stop my soul. Past her, yeah, past her. My mama was a single parent. It was quite apparent that my father was a shadow that weighed heavy on my mind. No time believing in fairies up in this Neverland, and that's a mindset that had a nigga too deep like quicksand. Poisonous thoughts dictated a young man's senses. Since I was a young youth, I was cast as the ugly duckling up in this play called life. And at the time, optimism was a necessity I couldn't afford. It felt like I had road rage on my destination to visions I only seen in lucid dreams. It was hard for me to even see this little light of mine and make it shine the way that others seen in me. Was I blind? I couldn't see it. Was I blind? I couldn't see it, but damn right, I felt defeated. When you got past friends and past teachers looking down on you from your left and your right, it can feel like you're in a fight for your life, trying to survive in this mad world. But we gotta get past her. 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 It took me a long time to finish this race. I'd rather go at a turtle's pace. I closed the case of me committing to self-homicide. Got my real niggas right by my side like 2 Glock 9s. I realized that my mind is a gold mine. No one can ever eclipse my glimmer. They might go blind, like in the Bible.
Welcome back. So, Dom, let's kind of break down this song a little bit. Like, how did this song start for you?
So let me tell you a little story, my man. Like that specific song started in 2016. It was when I was a depressed sad boy, still working over at Papa John's. I've been rapping for a very long time. I started rapping when I was 15 years old, like around 2010, 2011. I just never really had the confidence to do it seriously, let alone write music. That was a song that, at least the first part, Close My Eyes, Realize That Everything Ceased to Exist. It feels like I wrote that, around 2016, the first time I actually got into a studio it belonged to one of my coworkers, and he was doing his own producing things and shit like that. But it never went anywhere until last year. I don't know if you're familiar with the Z Swamp Piper. She goes by Pike. She was throwing those. And it was when I was still going through my depression, my sad boy period that I like to call. And one of my closest friends was like, hey, dude, do you want to go to open mic night? And I was like, open mic night? That actually sounds interesting. Something told me, Dominique, finish that damn song. You know that you got something that you can do. Just finish it. And I was like, really? And have a line. Started in 2016, finished it 2019. You know? But I basically ended up like finishing the song. Like, I had like a week and a half to 2 weeks before the open mic night. I feel like that song, Breaking the Mode, really kind of illustrates what I had to do in order to get to this point now. I had to break out of my mode, out of my comfort zone. And when I performed that song, it was horrible. I wasn't looking at people. I wasn't looking at anyone. I couldn't do eye contact. But everyone there encouraged me to keep going. Honestly, that was one of the best moments in my life because I can look back from that situation and see the connections that I have now with a lot of the same people that were there. A lot of shit has gone full circle.
Was this open mic? Was this here in Champaign-Urbana?
It was very close to Urbana Library, actually. It was right next to the library. It was at Ivor's old house at the time. Yeah, it was called the Z Swamp.
With this song, there's a few things that totally stand out to me that I love. There's that one line in there that I don't know, for some reason I just feel like it resonates with me. Like in the second verse, my mama was a single parent. It was quite apparent that and the line is, father was a shadow that weighed heavy on my mind. I don't know, for me that connects with me, this sense of where we come from. Our father is something that will always hang over us, whether we knew them or not. Mm-hmm. You know, I love the way that line kind of connects.
I would say a thing about my music at this point of the beginning of my career, I'm really trying to speak from my own perspective, but from perspectives that a lot of other people can relate to and understand. I mean, we all went through hardship. We all have experienced struggle in one way or another. You know, I mean, there's a lot of dysfunctional family dynamics if we're talking particularly about this song. And I just felt like I had a perspective where I could say certain things and it could resonate with people that didn't necessarily know who to go to or what outlet to go to vent out those frustrations. I do really like that line, too. My mother was a single parent. It was quite apparent that my father was a shadow that weighed heavy on my mind the whole time, believing in fairies in this Neverland. That's a very deeply rooted line that I really like. There's a lot of double entendres about it, like the strain on the relationship or the non-existent relationship that I have with my father. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure a lot of people around my age, probably around yours, grew up with Peter Pan. As a kid, in that series, the whimsical thing about it is that those kids are able to find the ability to fly if they believe in something so innocent and so childlike as something as a fairy, something so fantastical. When you don't have those pillars, your mother and your father or whoever is in your life that shows you the way, it can be kind of hard to look or ponder on the whimsical.
But isn't that the trick with being whimsical, is never growing up so that you never lose your ability to believe? But unfortunately, like Peter Pan, we all have to grow up sometime. In order to get older, we have to put things into our past, in a certain way. And I feel like with your, can I call it the chorus or your hook or whatever? I'm terrible at naming things or calling them what they should be called. So you'll have to forgive me. But we got to get past hurt. Again, I love that line because it's like, we got to get past the past hurt, not just get past hurt. Where did that line come from?
Okay, So, like I said, I was going through a massive depression for like 6 years of my life. I was self-medicating a lot, like with marijuana and shit like that. But the thing is, I realized, and I'm realizing that even more, I'm actually doing therapy right now. What I realized is that, like, I had a lot of trauma throughout my life that really did hold me back and kind of made me the person that I am today. I'm a more improved version of myself now, but around the time that I wrote that song, I feel like a lot of my actions were dictated by the pain that I experienced in my past. And the chorus, and it's a hook, but it can be like seen as a chorus as well, depending on if people want to jump in, stuff like that. But it goes like more of like, we gotta get past hurt. We gotta get past hurt.
Is it okay for me to say that I'm really proud of you for like saying that you're going to therapy, that you're talking with somebody, that I feel like that's something that not enough people hear about, or people sometimes reflect on, you know, thinking getting therapy is like a weakness rather than a strength. And I think that that's amazing that you're talking about that and sharing that, because I feel like there's only so much that we can do on our own. Again, you know, you're writing in such a way that resonates with me as well. Like quicksand, poisonous thoughts, and tainted a young man's senses. Since I was a young youth, I was cast as the ugly duckling in this play called life. You know, when you say that this is about breaking the mold and like getting away from those things in our past, I find it interesting that you use these kind of fairy tale or old Mother Goose stories kind of thing to talk about, you know, things that you're going through. Were nursery rhymes and folk stories and things like that, was that something kind of important when you were growing up, or did you like kind of discover those later and you're just like, wow, this actually connects?
Great question. To a certain extent, those are stories that were told to me when I was a kid. The thing about that, and I love that line too. The thing about that is that, like, when I started catching up speed on writing the song, I wanted to speak from the perspective of that little boy to a certain extent, that little boy growing up. That's the reason why I'm using a lot of like kind of whimsical metaphors in that song, because it's from the perspective of that little boy that was afraid to get from beside himself in a lot of ways. I feel like the beginning of the song illustrates the fears and the struggles of that young boy that I used to be. And then towards the end, it's me finding the courage that I always knew that I had in order to become the person that I am today. So savage. The man that's not afraid to put himself out there and make music because I love it. I want my voice to be heard. I feel like I can help people, or I speak for people that didn't have the courage themselves. And hopefully, in one way or another, I'm able to help them out with my music so they can find their voice.
It sounds like, though, you've been at this for a little bit over a year, right? Like that you finally put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
You would say that the reason that you continued, even though your first experience with performing live was like not the greatest, the fact that people supported you through this and continued to support you and said, keep going, that was what kind of kept you coming back. What keeps you coming back day to day and pursuing this?
For one, the song, Breaking the Mold. I made a decision to myself that night that I was no longer going to limit myself and be afraid from the stuff that I wanted to do. You know, it took a long time for this to happen, and I have no desire going back to where I used to be, you know, no desire at all. And yeah, the people that were there that cheered me on and stuff and supported me, my friends were there. There was complete strangers that were there. There was people that I grew up with from school and stuff too that was there. And they all seen something that I couldn't see in myself. But that night, I decided to put myself out there. It's still kind of hard, but I'm figuring it out. But for the very first time that night, I was able to see a little bit like of my own greatness and what other people saw in me. You know, like in the line, like on Breaking the Mold, I say, this little light of mine and make it shine the way that others seen in me. Without blind, I couldn't see it. That's real. That's very real to me, because I feel like in a lot of ways, people as a whole, we are told things in our early development that become our life story. We believe them. We believe them, and we take it as that, you know. And what I've realized is that, like, the stories that you were told when you were younger don't have to be your reality. You can rewrite whatever the hell you want, you know. Just seeing how, like, my music and just the fact that I went up there, even though the first time I performed live wasn't the best, it inspired people. And indirectly, it inspired me to keep going. And I realized that, like, I don't want to be a rapper. Rapping, like a rapper and an MC is not interchangeable. They're two different things. And I'd rather be an MC. I want to be a mic controller. I really want to be able to touch people's hearts with my rhymes.
When you say MC compared to a rapper, what is so special about being an MC over a rapper? I find that really intriguing, because I would have thought that they're interchangeable.
Most people, when they think of a rapper, they think of, people that you see nowadays. Uzi Vert, he's kind of like Kanye West, but not Kanye West. Travis Scott, or like DaBaby and stuff like that. Those are rappers. Those guys are good at what they do. They bend words. They say stuff that sounds cold. They say stuff that sounds nice to the ears. But what are they really saying? It's a lot of stuff that's demeaning. It's a lot of stuff that kind of makes you feel bad about yourself. To a certain extent, you might enjoy it, but it's like, I got more money than you. I fuck more homes than you. You know something? I got a bigger house than you, and it got 40 rooms. It's like, bro, you can't even freaking live in 40 rooms. It's cold as like you're freaking enjoying yourself and stuff like that. But a lot of these guys don't understand or realize their own influence. You know, in a lot of ways, that kind of hurts the listeners that are being exposed to their music. And a lot of times, their demographic are younger kids and stuff like that. You know, and it's like, it's cool if you want to enjoy it, zone out. You know, it's a vibe. Is it positive? Does it help you grow mentally and emotionally? I don't know, man. But an MC is different. An MC is someone like Tupac Shakur, someone that's like a Kendrick Lamar, a J. Cole, Mos Def. These guys have clear-cut messages. They're cold. They're good at what they do. They are able to bend words. They're able to say shit that sounds cold to the ear, that sounds fancy, and stuff like that. But they have meaning behind what they're saying. They have the same skills that your rapper would have, probably even more than what your rapper will have, but at the same time, they're able to make meaningful music on top of that. And that can actually speak to the generation. And a lot of times, like those rappers that I just listed in the line of MCs, their music lasts a lifetime. Like, there's hella people that are still talking about Dear Mama. Like, that song makes grown men cry, bro.
It sounds like, I mean, the way that I'm interpreting is there's almost like this, like the rapper is more about like pointing back to themselves, but the MC is more like reaching out and speaking to other people. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm trying to simplify it in like a nice little pill, but that's what I'm hearing. I like that distinction a lot, and it actually kind of, when you named the MC, as I was like, yes, of course, yes, I can totally see that, and it makes it clear. there was a couple of things that I wanted to just kind of touch on with your with your song. So like the last verse, I appreciate that it took me a long time to finish this race. I'd rather go at a turtle's pace. I closed the case of me committing self-homicide. And then you followed up with finding real friends and people that you trust by your side. And I feel like that's kind of a nice like summation of how you've grown and broken the mold. Did that feel important to kind of sum up everything at the end? Was that something important to you to get out?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that song is me talking to myself and to anyone else that cares to listen and, can add that to their own life. For me, like, it took me a long time to finish this race. I'd rather go at a turtle's pace. I closed the case of me committing to self-homicide. I wanted to, like, illustrate I'm finally ready to move past me basically shooting myself in the foot in a lot of ways, not necessarily giving myself the time of day to really flourish the way that I deserve and the way that everyone else deserves to. I feel like in a lot of ways your mind can be your own prison. At the end of the second verse, I realized my mind is a gold mine. I shine no matter what. No one can never eclipse my glimmer. It took me a long time to realize that I don't have to be a victim of my own thoughts or a victim of the past anymore. Realize I'm not inferior. I'm not dumb. Who I am is not meaningless. I have a lot of stuff to offer people, myself, and the world. I wanted to close that off with saying, don't downplay yourself. Realize what you got. Realize the people that you have in your corner. I got my niggas by my side like 2 Glock 9. That's so real. You gotta know who your support system is in order to really make leadway in your life.
There can be, like, in hip-hop, there can be such a sense of, like, bravado and, like, braggadocios, but I like the fact that the way that you're doing this song is it's about being... in a certain sense, it's about being vulnerable, but also like, hey, I don't need to like hold myself back anymore. I realize my potential. I really appreciate like being able to talk to you about this song because it's easy for me to interpret certain things, but to talk to somebody that helps me understand some of your thought process, and I think that's amazing. So thank you for sharing so like openly.
First, I just wanted to say that like hip hop in general has like it derived from bravado and seeing who's the best, but at the same time, it also came from connecting and bringing the community together. Like at that time, people would compare rhymes before they started boxing, and especially before they pulled out a gun. Over time, that aspect has changed. It's changed positively, and it's changed negatively. I don't want to illustrate it and shit on people that are braggadocious because, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
In some of my newer songs, I do a little bit of that, but it's always like positive reinforcement for me. It's not me shitting on somebody saying that I'm better than you.
COVID-19 got you down? You looking for some music? Some video games? Well, Exile Main Street still has all the things you need. New and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile Main Street still has something for any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile Main Street is taking orders, making deliveries, and pickups by appointment. They can find just about any music or video game you need. Check out their website, exilemainstreet.com, for links to their Discogs page for new additions. You can also contact them via Facebook Messenger to see what they can find for you. They can also be reached on Instagram, Twitter, email, or phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. So, Dom, how long have you been in the Champaign-Urbana music scene?
Less than a year. It will be a year July 14th.
Like, literally, that first open mic was you jumping into the Champaign-Urbana music scene, right? That's what it sounds like? Do you prefer the house shows, or do you actually like going to venues?
Well, I'm experiencing a little bit of both. Ultimately, I want to do bigger shows and stuff like that. But I got my start at like a house show venue, and I didn't get to perform at a house show venue until a little bit before COVID hit. One of my favorite scenes is definitely the Canopy Club. Like when they do their open mic nights, I could say that's kind of like my home nowadays. I think it was a week or two after I performed over at the Swamp Fest, I made a conscious decision about going out to the Canopy Club because like I was looking at other places that I could perform at and stuff like that. And at that, like at the Z-Swamp, I had my some of my closest friends with me and my girlfriend. When I went to the Canopy Club, I was like, I gotta prove to myself that wasn't a fluke. I gotta prove to myself that like I can do this even when my friends and my family are not there. Like, if I can do that, then I'm going to go a long way with my music. I already know. If I can find the confidence to put myself out there in front of complete strangers without that support system, I feel like I'll be good. I ended up doing that. And it was, man, I had a great time. And, like, a lot of people were really vibing with the song. I only had one song at that time. I only had Breaking the Mold. But people really liked it. It was a little bit better than the first time I performed. And I got to meet a decent amount of people from the scene that night, along with people that I grew up with that I found out was in the music scene, too.
So I guess from that perspective, I'm sure there's two different ways to look at how you perform. Like when you're performing for a bunch of friends versus, where you know that the audience is pretty much stacked with all of your friends, and then jumping into a show that you know nobody. What does that feel like?
At this point in my journey and in my career, I love being in front of people. I don't know, man. Like, there's just a certain feeling. It's the anticipation. Like, it's the butterflies and the anxiety that you get that I really enjoy. Like, I like not knowing how this is going to go anymore. I really do like that feeling, and I like being able to improv sometimes. I'm starting to teach myself how to, control the crowd a little bit more and engage, like, be more engaging. On stage, like, you can't plan a lot of shit, you'll have your songs and stuff like that, but it's just like, you don't know how the crowd is going to react to what you're doing or what you're saying. It's really nice stand-up comic that does stuff over at the Canopy Club and other venues. His name is Robert. He told me, you have to be able to read the crowd. It's one thing being able to hear your own music and know how it sounds to you, but how does it sound to the viewers? How is it perceived to them? And like, I love being in those situations because I get gems. I get people run game on me all the time. How I can perfect my craft, or how I can add to my repertoire and level up essentially. And just talk to other inspiring artists like myself that are going down the same path or going down a different path. It's just really cool to see those different lives or those different worlds collide. What's
next for you? What do you kind of see as your next level up? Where do you want to go from this point on?
So I was getting tired of doing a lot of open mic nights. Like, other people around me, they were doing a lot of open mic nights, and it's cool and stuff like that. But it was like I needed to broaden my horizon, man. So I went on the DIY, do it yourself, like website on YouTube and stuff like that. I was like just asking about shows, like asking if anyone wanted to book a rapper and stuff like that. And I got booked for the sexual harassment prevention, conversation. They were looking for a musician. They found a rapper. They found an MC instead of a acoustic guitar guy or just a straight up poet. It was a different scene. It was a different environment. But I feel like my music could definitely speak to a lot of the stuff that's going on with that too. It went really well. It was definitely awkward because that was my first show that I did outside of open mic nights and stuff like that. And because of the content that was being talked about, it went really well. Also, that was November 8th. That was my girlfriend's birthday. And I wanted to surprise her with my very first booked show that I did myself. I would say that the next step, because I'm only going to be here for 2 years. This is my hometown, but I don't want to be limited here.
Right.
And I love it. But while I'm still here, I got to go on bigger stages. I got to perform at the City Center during January. Around January or December. That's definitely the biggest show that I've done so far. It was for gun prevention. I ended up doing my song Crossfire. That's in tribute to a buddy of mine that I lost in St. Louis, along with talking about the rampant gun violence that we all experience, throughout our nation and throughout the days. It's only getting worse, and I wanted to talk about how it affects the community and the populace, along with how it affects the Black community and how it affected me personally. Once my project drops, I want to do bigger shows. I have a little tour, a little town tour I want to do. I want to rock the big stage over at the Canopy Club. You have to manifest the stuff that you want to do in the future. And I see myself every time, I see myself there. I see myself on that big stage. I see myself doing a lot more bigger shows than the open mic nights, but I still want to go to the open mic nights to inspire other people that are coming up just like me, along with, that's where I got my start at, so I can never forget my roots.
You're so young in your career right now. It's just absolutely fascinating to hear your dreams and your aspiration just kind of come pouring out of you right now, and I look forward to seeing what happens in the future. And are you thinking about moving to Chicago or definitely moving to a bigger scene in 2 years? You want to get out and find those bigger stages?
Basically, while I'm still here, because, my girlfriend, she's finishing up, her schooling. She's a mental health therapist. She's just doing the 2-year process, getting her license so she can be, a full-fledged therapist. While I'm still here, I'm going to travel to Chicago. The DIY scene there is a lot bigger. There's a lot of people that I look up to that's from Chicago, and there's no reason for me not to do my thing out there and eventually link up with them. We're thinking about going out to Delaware, actually.
Well, as long as you promise to kind of keep in touch and let the roots of Champaign-Urbana kind of remain, and that, you don't forget us, wherever you end up, it just fascinates me because of social media and because of, being connected as well as we are with the internet. Just amazing to see, people that kind of cut their teeth on Champaign-Urbana come out to these different areas of the world, and there's a certain pride that I have to say, that I can say, yes, they started out here, but they're just sharing their talent with the world, and I'm looking forward to being able to say, in a few years, I remember Soul Savage when he had just started at a house show. Even in the midst of the current shelter-in-place order, the Jubilee Cafe is continuing to serve packaged, home-cooked meals free to all every Monday evening. 5 to 6:30 p.m. Meals are available for pickup outside the 6th Street door to the Community United Church of Christ in Champaign, Illinois, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign. Jubilee Cafe's mission remains the same. Feed hungry people by cooking healthy and delicious meals. We are open to anyone who cares to receive a meal. For information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email us at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Dom, what is your favorite non-musical thing?
Well, let me tell you, I'm actually an artist. I draw. I was actually going to be a drawing artist before I actually got into music. I also love parkour. I'm a big anime fan. I'm a big-ass freaking nerd, and I'm okay with that. I want my drawing and my music to go hand in hand. I'm in a position right now where I'm doing promotional art, and I'm doing album covers for local MCs out here and rappers and stuff like that. That was a small time goal that I had, and it's cool to see that that's starting to come into fruition. I really do love art. I really love drawing. I'm more of a storyteller and a comic book artist, but I also like concept art as well. Because I grew up off of shit like Dragon Ball Z, freaking Yu Yu Hakusho, Trigun, stuff that we were all exposed to when it came to Toonami on Cartoon Network, when your ass should have been in the bed sleep, but you nah, I'm about to stay up around 12 and watch this shit. A lot of that influenced me. And it's weird, because looking back in my life, I'm seeing it now. It's crazy. There's a lot of aspects about my life that told me I was going to be an artist overall and stuff. When I was in summer camp, I think I was 8 or 9. This really smooth brother, was our counselor. He taught us about sex, taught us about freaking having wet dreams at the age of 9. He taught us how to rap. He taught us how to rhyme words together when I was 8 and 9. Looking back at it, he was definitely one of those guys that helped me, realize that this was something I wanted to do. Or my grandfather, when I was 3, telling me that he sees that I'm going to be an entertainer one day in my life. A lot of those small things that accumulate to something even much more. I met this graffiti writer right when high school started. That's when I started rapping. I was 14 to 15 years old. A buddy of mine were vandalizing shit. We were doing freaking graffiti without any clear-cut direction. It was over at the IMC, and we got caught. But we got caught by the right person. They were a notorious graffiti writer. But the thing is, they taught us a lot about hip-hop culture. What hip-hop truly means. Just what that movement was at the time. Those are the building blocks to, who I am now. And, just the fact that, I'm actually making music and continuing my art. Because I see the people in my life, good or bad, I see them as people that got me to the point that I'm at now. And without them, I don't think I would be the person that I am today at all.
When you draw, do you draw on an iPad, or are you actually, using, pen and paper kind of thing? What's your favorite medium for drawing?
I'm a traditional artist, by heart, but I've recently started getting more into digital art. I have a bamboo Wacom Circus tablet that I hook up to my laptop that's basically dying at any moment. It's 6, 7 years old. It's sad. I'm using that. I'm drawing digitally. I used to use this program called Tool SAI. It's a really good starting program for anyone that wants to get into digital art. But right now I'm using Sketchbook Pro. And Sketchbook Pro is something that I really enjoy. It's very intuitive. It's easy to pick up. For me, I've been having a really good experience with it. It has a lot of useful tools. It teaches you perspective, first point, 2-point, 3-point perspective. I'm starting to get more used to digital software, and I'm drawing on that.
What at the age of 3 did your grandfather see in you that made him believe that you were going to be an entertainer?
So, when you're broke as hell, and your parents are broke as hell, and your mom is a single parent, we stayed with my grandparents on 3rd Street. I found out that, like, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 3rd Street was popping in the black community. I wish I could have seen that. But we lived in, like, this freaking off-white green house, 2 to 3 stories. I think that bitch was haunted, man. Basically, I lived in the living room. Didn't have anything. I made the best out of the stuff that I had. I had a little toolbox that had tools and toys in it, you know, and, you know, I played with them and shit like that. And just children's imaginations, they wander, and they can make the best out of bad situations. It was my grandfather, my grandmother, my auntie, Yolanda, and my mother. They were up in the living room. They were playing, I keep forgetting this song, but it's definitely a classic. Forgive me, because I cannot sing to save myself, save my own ass. But, like, the song goes like, it's like, oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, please don't leave me. Something like that. It's under those lines. But, like, the thing is, like, I set my toolbox up like it was like a speaker. And then I had 2 little toys, like, on the side, like it was the lights. And then I had a screwdriver in my hand. And I had a button-down shirt on. I think I was wearing shorts at the time. And I was lip-singing the song. But, like, I was, like, super into it. Like, I was very passionate about the song. Like, I've always been that type of kid that's, like, I wear my emotions on my sleeves. And, like, I always like uplifting people and stuff like that. But the thing is, I got really into the song. I tossed the freaking screwdriver on the ground, and then I freaking ripped apart the button-down like shirt that I had. And I got on my knees, and I was freaking, like, I was singing that song so hard, even though I wasn't singing it because I was lip-singing. But my grandfather looked at me. He gave me the nickname G-Money, G-Man. And he said, yo, G-Man, you're going to be an entertainer. In some part of your life, you're going to be successful, and you're going to bring home a lot of money. That's why I'm going to name you G-Money.
You had so many people, like, kind of come in and out of your life that, you know, were there just kind of at the right moment to support you and, like, encourage you. I feel like people should be looking for those people in their lives that are there, that are supporting them. Dominique, Dom, thank you for being on the show and telling me about your song Breaking the Mold and about your upcoming projects and, like, getting your start and, you know, the people in your life that have supported you, have encouraged you, and I'm just really excited to hear your upcoming work and the project that you're working on. So please feel free to share that and let me know, and I want to share that with the rest of the world. So thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Thank you, man. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna tear up a little bit because, like, this is one of the things I've always wanted to do, and I know I'm gonna be able to do more, like, interviews. But I'm happy that, like, you were able to be the first one that I was able to do. Like, I really do appreciate that. This is going to be one of those moments that, like, I'll hold with me for the rest of my life, honestly. I just wanted to say that my project, I wanted to come out doing it end of the summer. We'll see about that. It's called Self-Rescue. And the last thing I want to say is that, like, to everyone else that's going to be listening to this, you know, you can't see me, but I'm pointing at you. Those experiences that I had that did help me get to the point that I'm at now, they were far in between. But I look at them with fondness You know, like, I just realized that sometimes the bad can outweigh the good, but when it's all said and done, what defines you? Those horrible experiences that you've had, those don't have to be your story. You can rewrite your story. You can break the mold. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Champagne is Also a Band. This is Soul Savage / Dom / that nigga you'll see on the streets. Just to remind you that great music is out there. Go find it where you live, or else.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio, South Bigger on the inside.
You know what to do.
Champagne is also a band. You are listening to my handsome son, Soul Savage, do his thing.
Good thing you didn't say thug. Thank you, Muppet.